Hello and welcome back to the Next Gen podcast. It is great to have you here with me today for part 2 of our conversation that we had with Julia and Andrew, part of the Kids Ministry at Church Unlimited and Kids Unlimited, after working with us in NextGen Empower for a 9-month period. If you missed episode 1 of this conversation, make sure you go back and listen to that. Otherwise, it'll be a little bit confusing jumping halfway into the conversation. Obviously, if it is your first time, welcome. This is a podcast designed to help you and your Next Gen ministry inspire, equip, and empower you to be the best leader that you can be. We don't know everything, but we do know something. We hope our something can be your one thing. So last time we were with Julia and Andrew, we were discussing what their journey was like before partnering with NextGen Empower and where they got to halfway through the journey. We're going to jump back into the conversation now, pre-recorded, filmed live with Julia and Andrew at Kids Unlimited, their sign-in area. Let's jump back into the conversation. I hope it blesses you. It's awesome, mate. What do you think? I mean, we don't have enough time to go through and talk through every single. I was going to do that, but now I'm like, we just don't have enough time to go as we're talking about it.
There's a lot.
What do you think for you guys? Obviously, I feel a little bit like a helicopter parent. You know, like I come in and I'm like, hey, here's a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay, see ya.
Do these. I'll see you next week. You know, like, and then come back in. What do you think, though? Like, in all honesty, what do you think the biggest or the most significant improvement that you really, because you've done all the work, like you're the ones still on the front line. Yes, you're the ones that really have carried this through to completion of this whole project. What do you think is the most significant improvement that you've made to the kids ministry that's going to have a longer lasting effect in the kids ministry at Kids Unlimited?
I think that...
If you pick one.
Pick one.
Yeah, like you could say...
Of all the millions things that
I've
done.
There are a lot. What do you think in your heart is the one that you're like, actually, I think that has made the most significant difference to our kids ministry moving forward?
I think you'll like this one. You'll agree with me.
It's not about Julia. No. I think you'll like this one. It's not about when there's no prearranged answers here.
She's trying to win. She's trying to win. She's trying to get the points again.
No. Well, win as in you'll be like, yes,
nice.
know. But that...
I just want to clarify.
Yes.
I'm like that about everything.
I know we know this.
Yeah.
But that that you challenged me.
Okay.
He made me cry a lot, guys. No.
Win! But thanks so much for joining us here on the Next Year podcast.
No, but I think a lot of those conversations, they were, you were never afraid to be like, oh, so let's go on that one. Oh, what did you mean by this? And you didn't let anything slide.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I think you kind of forced us into more self-reflection, or like this real intense self-reflection that maybe we'd toyed with and be like, that's uncomfortable, I don't want to do that today. And then we just move on, you know. And I think actually that doing some of that internal stuff, you know, when you go, hey, we were in a rut, we didn't know how to get out of it, we had a negative approach a lot of the time, there were all these things, and actually something that Pastor Tak has said before is that to us is that the best thing you can do for your ministry is bring a healthy you.
Yeah.
And so if we work on ourselves, then actually we're working in overflow to our ministry.
Yeah.
And I think we can often, in any ministry, like we can forget that and we go, whatever, I've got a meeting, I've got a plan, I've got to talk
get
to
caught
people.
up on the rat reel.
Just do it all, and we forget that actually all of that stuff matters. And so I think that's probably the biggest... My biggest gift to Kids Unlimited is a better me.
There you go. I like what you did there. That's good.
You like that? That's good. But no, I do think that
no, it's awesome.
Because that's come with that has been a change in attitude, a change in some perspective on some different things.
Right.
Your voice is in my head a lot. I'm like, does that really matter? Can you let that go? Does it?
I think that's a good thing.
No, it is a good thing. It is a good thing because you're pulling me into line even when you're not there.
I think what you just said is possibly the most clippable bit of our podcast today. Could you say the thing again that Pastor Tak says? Because I think that's huge. I think for ministry.
So the best thing we can give to our ministry is a healthy us.
The best thing we can give to our ministry is a healthy us.
Yeah, so he probably uses other words, but that's the gist of what he's saying.
Man,
Like,
that's
work
awesome.
on ourselves.
That's awesome. I love that.
And then it comes out and overflows.
I love that so much. I love that so much. And I think the awesome thing about you, Julia, is that you are so gifted. I think coming from a teaching background gives you so many of the skills I think most people in ministry maybe feel like they're lacking in terms of, the organizational ability, the work ethic, the care, the diligence, the sense of intuition of I know what to do in this situation with kids. And I think for me it was awesome just being able to go, you know what? You're actually awesome, and if you just stop beating yourself up in your own head and actually delight in yourself, then you'll be able to enjoy this whole thing a lot more. And I think honestly, I think a lot of now that you say that, I'm like, oh, actually, one of the biggest, water level rises has been you coming to terms with the fact that actually, God could use me and God wants to use me. And if the leader feels that, then the rest of the team will feel that too.
Yeah.
If the leader doesn't believe that about themselves, then there's no way they can believe that about others. Not to the fullest degree. We need to love everybody like we love ourselves. And if we don't have that first, that first bit of loving ourselves, and we're never going to be able to serve others to the best degree. So that's awesome that you felt like that. What about you, Andrew? What's the most significant thing that you think in terms of the long-lasting improvement that we've made for Kids Unlimited? What do you think that is?
I'm going from what Jules was saying, and she said, the challenge that you put up for us, and it was funny to me in my mind when she said, there was a bit of tears. I was like, oh, that's funny. I wanted to body slam him. So I was like, But I don't physically. I'm not going to actually physically body slam. But I love.
I'm so glad that I put you on that side of the interview.
But the challenges, like we spoke about this too. It's if we didn't have someone from the outside come in to challenge us of what we were doing, we wouldn't have made the changes. And I think for myself, realizing, when we were talking about this rut that we were going through, I got into the comfortable.
Right.
And I know for myself, and my faith walk that I've had ever since I've kind of made the commitment to be more walking in faith, I have known that God puts us in the uncomfortable, even though I hate it. Even though I hate that that's the space that we have to occupy. Yeah. And when I look back at it and I think about it, I was like, dang it. I was comfortable. We were doing okay, we were doing all right, but that's not that next stage and that next level. And so what I'm hoping happens is in what I do in ministry, moving forward, some of those lessons that actually the one main lesson that I've kind of taken away from our time together is, we'll talk about these 5 pillars. I don't know if you share the 5 pillars or anything.
We haven't talked about them yet on the podcast, but it is one of the team trainings that are available for people. And
like that, the 5 pillars are,
book it today.
Yeah, honestly, like that was a game changer. Like that was seriously a game changer for us. And I'm not gonna spoil alert or anything, but realizing that I'm focusing more on something that doesn't need the focus. For kids, it's not about the lessons that they learn. It's about the time you spend with them. Because when you're giving yourself to the kids, when you're forming a relationship with them, and then that's how they see faith. Yeah. If you live your life in faith and you live your life
really good.
The way you're supposed to be living it, supposed to be living it, and kids see that and they see that it's real, then that's how they'll be able to take on faith. And I'm hoping that, I love the fact that I can walk through the foyer here in church and see kids that are now teenagers, and I'll be like, hey. And they'll be like, "Hey, Andrew," and I'll be like, "Sweet, you're not too cool yet. You're not too cool yet. You'll still say hello to me. All right, that's cool. That's cool." But I love that. I love that they're coming to church. They're coming with their families. Maybe some of them get dragged along, but I'm hoping is that because they've formed relationships with people, because they can see that example in the people in church. And man, that's a sermon all by itself, talking about
totally
the church example. But that captures them. They see, it's not what the world tries to show of what church is.
Right.
Church is the people. Church is us looking after people. One of our values here at church is, people are our passion.
Yeah.
And so I hope that in the loving care that I try to show to the kids that come through, even the ones that drive us mad and crazy, which are usually
there seems to be many of them,
pastors' kids usually.
Yeah, sometimes it is. No. But I'm hoping that'll be. I don't know if legacy is the right word. It might be too strong of a word, but
I think it's a great word. I think it's the right word. Legacy.
Is that that we won't have to worry about these stats of the kids falling away from church.
Yeah.
That they, it feels ingrained in them, innate in them to stick and be sticky. That's what we try to do. That they stick to church, that they stick to faith. So I'm hoping that's going to be the thing. That's my prayer. At least I try to.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's awesome. What do you think? Look, we've been going for a long time, so we're gonna bring this to a close. I literally could just sit here and talk about this.
Yeah. What's the sermon line? We're gonna bring this into land.
Yeah. If the Keys could join me for my 17th close, that'd be great. But I mean, as we're talking about it, I'm so encouraged about the future of the church in New Zealand when you have people like yourselves, even though you're not going to be doing this forever, nobody does anything forever, but the seeds that you're sowing now, and I love that you use the word legacy, because I think actually kids ministry is that. Our job is to sow the seeds for a legacy, a legacy shift, a legacy change, a legacy impact, and that is what we're doing. And it's not, I mean, we can talk about color schemes and logo design and font choice and run sheets and shopping lists and all the things that kids ministry typically entails, but really the difference is the pastoral care and the intentional difference that we bring to pastoral care, and that is the legacy that gets left behind. And I'm encouraged because we've got people like you guys who are willing to double down and make the improvements that are required to reach a brand new generation. It makes me very encouraged about the future. What's one thing that you would tell the people who are in kids ministry? Maybe you're a kids leader or you're a kids pastor watching this or listening to this today. What's one thing that you're sort of walking away from this whole experience with NextGen Empower, and just some of the things that you've maybe learned, or even the Holy Spirit maybe has spoken to yourself about in this journey, that you can say to encourage someone else who maybe feels like they're in the rut that you were in beforehand, as they're listening or watching to this?
I think don't be afraid. Like, don't be afraid to go to your leader, your senior pastor, whoever it is that's in charge of you or oversees you. Don't be afraid to go to them and lay it all out. I went. I'd been to Jody before and been like, hey, this is just how it is, and nothing was going to get changed or fixed if she wasn't aware of it. If we had just gone, if we had holed away in our corner of our office space, then and gone, we can fix it. Like, we actually need others. We need the input of other people, whether it's from our senior leadership, whether it's from people that are in other ministries coming in to help us out. Like, we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. So I think that's it. Is like, don't be afraid to say, I don't have it all together. Don't be afraid to say, we're in a rut. Don't be afraid to want to make changes.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Don't be afraid to, just because you've done, hang on, what is it? It was something my old principal said to me, don't do it that way just because it's always been done that way.
Yeah, right.
If you don't know the why of why you're doing it, then maybe that's a good indication that change is needed. Yeah,
that's awesome. Man, that's really, really good. That's really good. It's funny, because I think, like, as you were saying it, I was like, why do we get to that point? I think, like, as leaders and as people in ministry, why do we get to the point that we're like, maybe it's fear. Maybe it's like we don't want to be exposed for not knowing enough or not being like, I don't know. If you have, this is.
I don't know. Like, I wonder if people just, we worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
We worry about what.
Do you think that was a thing for you as like leading the kids ministry here? Like, do you think that's like?
Not that I was aware of, but I wouldn't surprise me if I was to sit down and dig deep enough. It was probably in there. You get handed this ministry to run, to lead, you're like,
with no training
apart from my teaching, to be like, cool, I got this. Like, I think, and for myself personally, I don't like to fail. I don't like to do a half-pie job. So whether or not I was afraid of what other people thought, I don't know, but I didn't want to let myself down because so I was working myself to the bone, like Andrew said, focusing on things that I didn't need as much attention because my attention was just in the wrong place. But yeah, don't be afraid.
That's awesome. It's really good. Thank you. Andrew, one thing that you would say, and I think just before you say it, as guys in kids ministry, we're very, very rare. We're a rare breed. We're like the white rhino. Are they actually extinct now?
I don't think they're extinct, but I think
they're pretty close.
Pretty close. Yeah.
We got to flip the script on that. By the way, we've got to try and figure out how we fix that problem. But that's for the meeting after this podcast. We'll fix that problem. But what's one thing for you as a guy in kids ministry? I want to put a little bit of extra weight on what you're about to say. No pressure. But as a guy in kids ministry, what's one thing that you would say to encourage maybe the one other guy who is in a kids ministry right now?
Man, just don't go. Don't leave.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because honestly, and it's not to demean, the females that do this.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But if we're thinking about the numbers and statistics and all that kind of stuff, there's the majority of children's ministry is women. But don't underestimate how good it is for a male to be inside a kids ministry.
Yeah.
And the perfect example is, in my room that I look after the 7 to 11-year-olds, the shift that's happened in one of my teams, which was all female, we added one young adult into that young adult into that team, and the boys just like he was a magnet for boys. It's amazing, eh? They want.
It's actually incredible.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you are a guy, or if you know guys that would be perfect for kids ministry, encourage them and tell them our boys need them, right? Like we talk about balance and all that kind of stuff, but if boys don't have that example of what a male or how a male is, that's we can't underestimate how powerful that is for kids. So yeah, honestly, if you're a guy and you're in kids ministry and like, man, I don't know about this, keep going.
Yeah.
Because you will never know how much of an influence you're having in those kids' life until they're older.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Until you see what their journey is going to be like, which has completely made me forget what my actual thing I was going to say was.
No, but that one's
good.
But
that's really that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's what I was going to say. I was going to add on to it. Don't be afraid. Like I
right.
Think
why does he get two?
You can say another one if you want, and I can cut it out later.
No, I was going to add on to it. Don't be afraid. Like I think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves as children's ministry because
right,
do it for God, got to do it.
Yeah,
got to make sure that these kids catch it. But God knows that we aren't perfect. We fall short.
Yeah.
Don't put that kind of pressure on you. God will do the work. We just got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Okay, so as we actually bring this to a close now, final question. We talked a lot about how before this process that we've gone on the last 9 months, you were in a rut, discouraged, feeling flat. Probably the future wasn't looking that bright. It was the same old. 9 months later, I'm about to go. We're about to let you loose. How are you feeling now as you look towards the future of kids ministry, but not just kids ministry, like Kids Unlimited? Like, how are you feeling about where we are now and what's to come? How are you feeling? Obviously, before not so great. Now, how are you feeling?
Nervous and good.
Okay, talk to me about nervous.
So nervous because it's like, okay, we've done a lot of talking, we've had a lot of meetings, we've made a lot of changes. So nervous in the sense of like, I got to keep it going. Like Harry's not going to be here anymore. It's going to come on my shoulders. So, but like not a super negative nervous, kind of like a nervousness that keeps us uncomfortable and keeps us on our toes, so that it keeps moving forward. Nervous, hoping that you're not going to like block my number when I'm like, hey, we need the advice.
No.
But also super excited because I feel like we've become a little bit positioned to be like, okay, God, we've made some behind the scenes changes. We've made physical changes. What do you want to do next? How do you want to lead this? Like, don't let us do it. Like, download to us, show us what to do. And I know that God's going to do some really great things through Kids Unlimited. And I'm scared about what he's going to do. And I'm scared about how he's going to push us to the uncomfortable. But I've also told him that I'm here.
It's awesome.
And so it's good.
Awesome.
It's exciting.
I think what you're articulating when you use the word scared, what I think you're using, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you are just terrified, but I think there's this anticipation, there's this weight of expectation on the Lord around what he could do with you and with the team and with the church. I mean, what God has already done in the last 9 months is incredible. Like March 2020. Is that where we are? 2024? Are we 2024 now?
We are, but it's May.
May, yeah, but the month of March, or was it April? That was 67% bigger year on year.
I think that was March.
March, right? Yeah. So, like, basically every month, like, these guys won't tell you this, but every month since we've been working together, and these guys have been doing 95% of the work. I do, like, 5. Pastor Jody likes to call me the 11%, and the rest of the team do the rest. But every month, there's not been one month that's been lower than 10% growth year on year. March 2024 was their biggest growth month year on year at 67.8% percentage increase of people attending. And I think that makes me feel like, this is going to go great. We're going to need more rooms.
See you later, guys.
Bring back launch, like we're going to need some extra rooms. But it's a huge testament to the work that you're doing, and it's a huge testament to all of that. And I say that not to do anything other than to say that the trajectory you're on and the journey that you're on now, I think it would make me feel like, oh my gosh, like what's God going to do? Like how's it going to go? But it's awesome that you're in that space. I'd rather you be in that space, and I'd rather be in that space than going around in circles and shrinking. That's not where you want to be. Am I right on that?
Yeah. Like I guess when I use that word nervous or scared, like I'm not negatively or anything.
Sure.
It's with that, the anticipation, the trepidation, like, God, what are you going to do?
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's good.
Andrew, closing thoughts.
Oh, geez.
No, what? How are you feeling? Like, how are you feeling now? Like, you still want to body slam me, or are we sort of? Are we past that?
No, we're way past that.
Just elbow drop, just a light elbow drop.
No. I it's interesting that you said 9 months. It's almost like giving birth to. Oh man, am I building it up too much? Like giving birth to a.
Wow.
I
felt that.
That hit home for him.
That hit home for me.
It's just twofold.
I honestly feel like the anointing's on that though.
Yeah, but it's awesome that we've gone for 9 months ago we were here, and now we can honestly say 9 months we are here. And just like what Julia's saying, she says, I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared, man.
I'm not. There's no anticipation. I'm actually just terrified.
I am quite scared because in the rooms that I look after, those are the biggest rooms. We had 80 kids the other week, and I'm like, holy cow!
Was that in one service?
That was in one service.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I'm like, cool. God's working. I'm like, wow, but and it's awesome. We're not supposed to limit God. Because he's limitless, he's unlimited. But man, I don't know where it's going, and I feel like if I put my expectations on it, it's too low, right? And I just want to see where he's going to take us. I know there's work to do, and I know it's hard work. I know it's going to be uncomfortable. I know that I'm going to not like some of it. But yeah, I'm just excited to see where and it's not just about growth; it's about growth in numbers, I should say. It's not just about growth in numbers. No. It's about, there's a real feeling of the Holy Spirit moving inside of our kids. I mean, just our praise and worship alone, there's something shifting, And if we hadn't got on board with that, would it have moved the way that it's moving now? God is showing us a way. We got to follow it and got to keep going with it. But it's scary.
But man, I've just my son today is 8 days old.
Yeah.
And the 9 months of anticipation, the 9 months of watching obviously my wife go through a lot more than what I did. I've put some weight on too. I was just getting my dad bod ready. In fact, I've been doing that for years. But I think there's a real sense of the anointing on what you said about the fact that it's been 9 months, and you guys have laboured and toiled, and the whole team has, like Bridie included, the whole team has, Pastor Jody, everybody has gone on this journey together, but you have now got this beautiful gift that is, aesthetically it's beautiful, but internally it's pure, and it's focused on the right thing. You're focused on the right stuff. And I think, honestly, guys, I am so excited to watch what God is going to do through you continuously. I'm excited to see how Kids Unlimited can impact the Church of New Zealand. How this, just to encourage you, make you feel more comfortable. But in all seriousness, I think what you have to offer and what you guys have as a ministry and as a church and as a team is so special, and it's been such a joy to work with you both and the whole team. But I do want to encourage you that there's so much more ahead, and I think God is going to move powerfully continually. He's going to continue to move powerfully here, but what he's going to do in the Church of New Zealand through you, I'm really excited to see that. And the legacy is not just for the kids that attend your church on Sunday, but the legacy is for Christianity in this country. And I might be audacious enough to say, and beyond this country, but not to freak you out too much about that. Otherwise, you might actually just run across and actually smash me. But no, honestly, I'm so excited, guys. And what we're going to do is, if you do have any questions for these guys, we're going to put their email addresses. They don't know this, but we're going to put the email addresses in the bio on this podcast. Feel free to reach out, ask some questions. If you're in Auckland at any point, email them in advance. You've got to come and check out the kids ministry here. Come and check out the church. It's in West Auckland, Church Unlimited. You can Google that. If you Google Kids Unlimited, which I've not done, I don't know what comes up, so don't do that. But email them in advance and come and have a look. Come and spend some time with Julia, Andrew, Bridie, the whole team. It's incredible what God is doing here. It's been such a joy to be a part of it. Thank you so much for not just being here today. I know that this wasn't necessarily something that you had thought that you wanted to do, but there's been some real gold in this conversation, some really awesome things. And I hope for you guys, it's an opportunity just to pause, reflect, and go, actually, we're pretty great. Because I've said a lot of things, we've had a lot of meetings, you've changed a lot of things, improved a lot of things, but really, you guys have done the hard work. You guys have carried this, and it's so encouraging to see what God has already done and to think about what he's going to do into the future. So thank you very much for letting me work with you, for having me harass you and bug you for months, and really excited to see what God is going to do into the future. And thank you for being here today as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, that is it for the Next Gen podcast for today. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. It was 3 times the length of our normal podcasts, but there is so much gold in there. I hope that you've used this wisely and enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. If you'd like to join our Next Gen Nation, we're going to have opportunities in our Q&A episodes once Annaliese's body has healed from the childbirth. We're going to have some more Q&As with H&A coming up in the next few months. So if you've got any questions that maybe you'd like to ask on stuff we've talked about, you can do that only if you've registered to be part of the Next Gen Nation. There's also a whole bunch of added extras that you can be a part of, including Instagram close friends. We give content most weeks when I remember. Julie is part of that. Andrew's not, so we're going to talk about that at the end of this, but that's okay. Andrew doesn't want to be, but Andrew should be. But if you'd like to be part of the Next Gen Nation, you can register for free. HarrySladeNZ.com, HarrySladeNZ.com. You can register for free there. Hey, take a moment if you haven't done so already. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, help us out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like this video. And that would be really helpful. Also, if you're on any of our audio podcast platforms, feel free to rate the podcast. It just helps. We spend no money on advertising. This is a free resource that we want to keep free to keep empowering the church and leaders like yourself. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. Thank you again. That's it for now, though. Listen, every Next Gen leader, be encouraged. Your story is changing history, leading the legacy, and changing the tide. So don't quit. Keep the grip, and we'll see you very soon back here on the Next Gen podcast. Peace.